Hi everyone, this is Marianne and welcome to a series on my channel called 5 Minute Book Talk, in which I take roughly 5 minutes to talk about a book that I have read while I flip through the book. In this video, I will be talking about the book The Only One Left, which is a novel written by Riley Sager. I read it on my Kindle. And before I proceed, I just want to say that there will be spoilers in this video, so if you have not read the book yet, please feel free to click away and then just return to the video once you're done reading the book. Let me say right off the bat that I really enjoyed reading this book. The beginning is already a very strong hook because it shows the narration by two different people. The main character of the story, which is Kit McDeer, who is around 30, the main narrator, and then there is a second narrator of the story who narrates by typing on a typewriter. The novel was written by Riley Sager and released in 2023, but it is set in the early 1980s, where Kit McDeer was a caregiver who has just recently lost her own mother. The mother was suffering from a painful disease. Kit was her mother's caregiver, and one night Kit left a bottle of a powerful painkiller near her mother. That was a violation of the standard procedure for caregivers because they're strictly required to lock all medication inside a box at night and keep it under their bed. But Kit's mother took an overdose of the painkillers and then died, and Kit was accused of killing her mother by either being negligent or by literally giving her the pills, but Kit was never convicted. Nevertheless, she was suspended from her work at the caregiving agency. But at the end of her 6-month suspension, she was given her next assignment, which was to care for a very rich old lady that lived in a mansion in an isolated cliff that was located at the area of town where only the very rich people had houses. The lady was named Lenora Hope, and she was paralyzed and could not speak. But in 1929, when she was around 17 years old, she was accused of having killed her mother, her father, and her sister, but she was never convicted. But the whole town has heard about the murders in 1929, and all throughout the decades that passed, even the kids in the 1980s knew about the murders of the Hope family, and there was even a rhyme that talked about the murders and named Lenora as the murderer. So Kit goes over there to the mansion of the Hopes, where Lenora was the only surviving family member, and there Kit meets the head housekeeper, Mrs. Baker, who explained to Kit that the reason that she was there was because the former caregiver, named Mary, just disappeared one day. Like, she just disappeared without saying anything to anyone. Anyway, Mrs. Baker also tells Kit that Lenora could not speak and was paralyzed, but she could use her left hand to tap out a yes or a no as answer to questions. So Kit takes over the job that was effectively abandoned by Mary, and she also manages to strike a rapport with Lenora and told Lenora about the death of her own mother, and by doing that also convinces Lenora to tell her own story of the murders by typing it on a typewriter using her left hand. And that's when the story unravels, because Lenora is not a reliable narrator, and because of that unreliability, it's inevitable that there will be plot twists. And in this novel, there are a few plot twists actually, and I must admit I was not prepared for most of them. In some stories, you can kind of tell beforehand, but in this novel, all of the plot twists were super surprising, except for one. The only thing that I kind of suspected was that Jessie, the maid who recorded herself reading paperback novels into a cassette tape, which Lenora would then listen to using a Walkman and headphones, Jessie was actually telling Lenora something in secret via the cassette tapes. I kind of suspected that, and it turned out to be true. But the other plot twists, absolutely unexpected. But as I finished reading the novel, all of the plot twists ended up to be perfectly justified, and the novel ends on a happy note, actually. We're also given the true story of the murderers, and Lenora actually never killed anyone, and the Lenora, the paralyzed one, was not even Lenora at all. The final destruction of the Hope Mansion was very dramatic, as befitting a story that had heavy gothic undertones, but I think the final destruction of the mansion was representative of the final justice to end the story. Lenora, or not really Lenora, had to be free of that mansion that was her prison for decades. Like I said, I really enjoyed reading this novel. It was a very nice escape from my usual reading fare, and I have read that Riley Sager, the author, is known for these kinds of stories. Very personal, but with wonderful twists. I'm certainly going to read more of her work. I am now a fan.